Hey, everybody, this is Darren Sabedra again with the Bay Area News Group, Mercury News, EastBayTimes.com. Here's Mike Lefkow. Mike, we are approaching the finish line. This is the final show of the 2021 fall season. We have state championships on Saturday for us. We don't have any teams playing on Friday from our coverage area, but are you ready?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready, but I hope the teams are.
I hope the teams are ready. I hope the teams are ready. And for the first time since the CIF added state championships to the schedule back in 2006, we won't have the De La Salle Spartans to cover this weekend. They lost 28-27 to Folsom last Friday in the 1AA NorCal regional game. So Folsom moves on to play Cathedral Catholic on Friday night at Saddleback College in Mission Viejo. Painful end to a De La Salle season that was historic in a lot of ways. First loss to a regional opponent in 30 years when St. Francis beat them by 3. And then Folsom became just the third San Joaquin section team to beat De La Salle, ending a 5-game Folsom losing streak against the Spartans, including a loss in October. Mike, you went on Twitter. You discussed. I mean, De La Salle went for 2. That seems to be what a lot of teams are doing. John Harbaugh did it in the Ravens game against the Steelers on Sunday, and it cost him. They lost by a point. And Justin Allenbaugh went for 2 with 1:44 left on Friday. Called it a no-brainer. He gave it to Zeke Berry, his best player, who committed to Michigan earlier in the day. And Zeke was stopped at the goal line, and Folsom ran out the clock to win the game. I really didn't have a problem with the call. I've seen De La Salle gain 5 yards at a clip of 4th and inches, and they gave 5 yards off that veer. But you thought they should have played for overtime?
Well, I mean, to me, yeah, he thought there was a good chance that the play would succeed, and maybe 9 out of 10 times it does. But the thing is, in a situation like that, you're down by a point. It's a championship game. You've got a kicker who's been doing very well. I mean, by my count, he had kicked 27 of his last 28, including 22 in a row. I mean, and it might have even been longer than that. I was going on Max Prep stats, and sometimes those score trackers aren't always accurate. Mm-hmm. And I just thought in a situation like that, you go for the tie, and maybe something happens in the final minute and 44 seconds, and if not, you go overtime and make the best team win in overtime.
And who's to say that De La Salle would have stopped them in the final 144? De La Salle did tie it up on a fumble return in the fourth quarter, and then had Folsom at I believe a third and 20, and they gave up 19 yards, and then jumped off sides, keep the drive going. Folsom ends up scoring, and then De La scores in a matter of seconds. The Spartans are already back to work. I talked to Coach Allenbaugh on Sunday, and they started their off-season weight training program on Monday. It'll be the first real off-season program that De La Salle has had since the pandemic shut down in March of 2020. That's what De La Salle's program is built on, right? The off-season, getting ready, I mean, everybody does that, but that's kind of been the staple of their success, right? What they do in the off season.
Yeah, they've done that for a long time. They start a weight training program right after the previous season ends, and yeah, they get those kids in good football shape for the upcoming season. I don't know how many of their players are multi-sport athletes.
Right.
They have a fair share, but yeah, they go into a weight program and an off-season program right away. A lot of schools do that now, and they do that all the time.
So they started Monday, just 3 days after the loss to Folsom. So we'll see what the results are going to be. They've got rematches next fall against St. Francis and Folsom, and possibly a game against Serra. I don't know, that hasn't been worked out yet, but they're trying to get a game with Serra, which would be great for Northern California football.
Yeah, no, hopefully they can work it out.
What isn't great for Northern California football is Serra having to go into a hornet's nest down in Mission Viejo. I mean, it's not Serra's fault. They've had a great season. They were picked to play in this game against the #1 team in the country. But man, it just keeps getting uglier for Mater Dei. I mean, is that, how would you describe what we've read here in the last week or so, week and a half?
Well, I mean, I think it's sad. I mean, this is high school football, and this is high school football that's just it's I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, this is not what high school football should be. It's great that high school football has become bigger and more watched and a little different maybe than it was 20 years ago. But I mean, I don't know what's going on in Mater Dei. I don't think this is what people had in mind when
this is not education-based athletics. If you want to get down to it, it's not. They have a couple issues on their hands, and the CIF looks bad on all fronts. Apparently, there's nothing in the bylaws for the CIF to hand down any discipline right now on Mater Dei. It would have to come within the school, or if it were a public school, the school district. So they got that hanging over their heads as they go into their championship weekend. And the latest is an alleged altercation between two Mater Dei players in 2019, where they broke another Mater Dei student's jaw at an off-campus gathering. That was reported by the Orange County Register yesterday on Monday, and then we've got the locker room incident, which was captured on video, which is a pretty ugly scene. And now we've got the Bill Plaschke report, which, the DA came out last week in Orange County and said that that it was mutual combat and it wasn't hazing, and they weren't gonna move forward with any charges or anything. And then Bill Plaschke interviews the family and wrote a column in the Los Angeles Times on Sunday, in which the parents told Plaschke that the kid feared that other players would urinate in his locker room or his locker if he didn't fight, which I guess has happened before. It's just a really ugly scene, an ugly situation. But on top of that, CIF has watched this team just load up with talent for years, right? For the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And now they got a championship game in which the CalPreps.com computer predicts that Serra's going to lose this game 48-0. And that's supposed to be your marquee championship game.
Well, Mater Dei is I mean, they're an IMG, or if you look at like in basketball, Prolific Prep up in Napa. I mean, that's the kind of program it has become. I mean, I'm hoping that IMG and Prolific Prep aren't doing what Mater Dei kids are doing outside the, when they're not playing football.
Right.
But I mean, the
allegedly doing those are.
But the program, it seems to be allegedly out of control, right. And somebody needs to step up and start bringing things back to earth a little bit. And I don't know if that means that Rawlinson has to go. Maybe some administrators have to go. Maybe Mater Dei needs to take down its great football program for a year or two. I don't know what you do, but this is not high school football, and it's an embarrassment. But, not only that, to me, it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the high school, but it's an embarrassment to the Archdiocese of Orange County. This is a religiously affiliated school. And I don't know if I think I would be a little put out about this type of stuff going on at Mater Dei if I were down there.
Right.
And so, I think there are a number of levels where people have to step in and say, okay, enough is enough.
Right. but at this point, it appears there will not be any discipline handed down before the game. I mean, I guess if the coach were put on administrative leave, it might make it look like they're taking it seriously going into this game. And but I don't know. I mean, it's just a bad situation, and poor Serra, which has had a great season and should be honored to be playing in this game, is having to walk into a situation like this, where they've done nothing wrong, and they're going down there to celebrate a great season, and they're playing a great team, and this is not going to go away by Saturday.
Well, I mean, if you're Sarah, what you do is you just ignore it. I mean, this is something you can't control. You have nothing to do with it. It's not your fault. If you're Sarah, you just ignore the whole thing. You just you stick to your program, you stick to your game plan, and you play your game.
Right.
And whatever the outcome is, and you don't worry about all the outside stuff. That is for Mater Dei and the people down in Southern Section and the
CIF
of Orange County, the CIF. That's for them to figure out.
Right.
Serra just goes down there and plays a football game, plays the best it can, and hey, everybody's proud of him. It just make your school and make yourself proud. That's all.
Right.
And just don't get involved in it.
Well, we have 6 schools in our coverage area that will be playing for championships on Saturday. 4 of them will be up here. Just going through, doing a little bit of homework. There's some teams that, I mean, in this model that the CIF uses of competitive equity, and there's a lot of their sections use the competitive equity model. There's some teams in here with some records that you would not associate with being part of a state championship game. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I've noticed. I think about 3 of them, aren't there?
Yeah, I was going through. I mean, we can start off with well, there's a couple of teams that were 0-5, including Sacred Heart Cathedral out of the city. But this team out of Santa Maria that's going to be playing Sacred Heart Prep of Atherton, they made the playoffs at 1-8.
I saw that.
And now they're playing in the state championship game. They've won 5 in a row? Rigetti?
Yeah.
Rigetti, Santa Maria.
Well, this is why I've said all along. I mean, there comes a point where I don't care how tough your schedule is. If you're 1-8, you're not in the playoffs. It's just ridiculous that a team that lost 8 of 9 is in the playoffs. They're probably in a lower division because of their record.
Right.
And so they now beat, or they get hot finally. Maybe they get a couple.
They get hot, and they don't play maybe the schedule that they played during the regular season. I mean, we talked about it earlier. I mean, the competitive equity model, and I like it in the sense that you get competitive games in early rounds of section playoffs. But one of the downsides to this model is you've got teams that play in stronger leagues that don't do well, and then they end up, because of their record or whatever, they end up in a lower division. And I think Wilcox is a great story. He's had a great season. But what are you thinking if you're Los Gatos and you beat Wilcox and you had to play in Division 1 of CCS? If Wilcox had won that game and had won maybe one other, they would have been in Division 1 playing against Serra and St. Francis. So it's a model that I don't know the easy answer, but we see this every year that some teams, St. Francis has been home for a couple of weeks, and Sacred Heart Cathedral, which finished in the lower half of the WCAL, is playing for a state championship this weekend.
Well, there is no easy model. I mean, what has to happen is once you set up these teams with competitive equity, then I think what you need to do is you need to tweak your brackets a little bit so you don't get situations like you have with a 1-8 team in a state championship game, or even 4-6 teams going to state championship games. You have to tweak it a little bit. You can take a a Rigetti and you move them, if you have to have them in the playoffs because of competitive equity, you move them up into a higher division, make them the 8th seed or whatever the lowest seed is, and then they have to play the number 1 seed. Now they have to beat a really good team, and they probably don't last long. And that's the way you do it. You have to tweak it after your competitive equity is done.
You ready to get to the picks?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. It looks like I'm going to be the champion because we all picked. I know Evan picked the same games that I picked, and he's 3 back. So,
and I was probably out of it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, you've been out of it for a while. But let's start off in Division 6A, where Salesian, which won the 6A title in 2019, is back for more. The Pride coming in at 10-2, playing against Arlington of Riverside. First title game for Arlington. Arlington's won 5 in a row, which if you do the math, they're now 7-8. So at one point they were 2-8, and now they've won 5 in a row. They're playing for the state championship in 6A. Somebody asked me about that. Where do they come up with 6A? I've never asked the CIF specifically about the divisions, why they're 6A, 6AA, but my guess is that they didn't want Division 14 and Division 12.
Yeah, I would guess that was, yeah.
So anyhow, at the 6A division, which is the lower of the 2 6s, we've got Salesian at home. I'm taking Salesian. Cal Preps is taking Salesian, and Evan is taking Salesian.
I'm going to take Salesian too.
You're taking Salesian too. Okay.
I would hope it would beat a 2-8 team. Well, 7-8 now.
Well, they're 7-8. They're 7-8.
Yeah, so they probably entered the playoffs. What, best 4-8?
At best.
No, not
yeah,
4.
It's been a number. They've played a lot of playoff games.
At least 5.
Division 5A in Atherton on Saturday afternoon at 1:00. Sacred Heart Prep, which is now at 500 after a 3-7 start. The Gators are at 7-7. They're going to be playing Rigetti of Santa Maria, which is 6-8. Rigetti's won 5 in a row. Made the playoffs, as we noted, at 1-8. Sacred Heart Prep is 0-2 in state championship games. Man, their teams in 2013, 14, and 15 were really good. That was the Ben Burkervin era. Sacred Heart Prep lost to Corona Del Mar 27-15 in 2013, then went undefeated in 2014, won CCS Open, but didn't get picked to go to a state game when there were fewer divisions, and then lost at Rancho Bernardo 35-14 in 2015. So this is the opportunity for Sacred Heart Prep to win its first state title. Rigetti is making its first state championship appearance. And as we noted, they were 1-8 at one point. Cal Preps is taking Sacred Heart Prep. I'm taking Sacred Heart Prep. Evan's taking Sacred Heart Prep. Who you got?
Yeah, easy call, Sacred Heart Prep.
Yep. 4A division, Sacred Heart Cathedral. They started 0-5, now 7-7, playing against Northview of Covina. They're 9-6. This game will be Saturday night in San Francisco, Kezar Stadium. First state championship game for both teams. Cheo Medina for Northview has run for more than 1,700 yards. That said, I'm taking Sacred Heart Cathedral to win at home. It'll be a nice weekend, assuming Paul Doherty leads Folsom to a championship on Friday night. His alma mater, Sacred Heart Cathedral, playing for a state championship on Saturday night. Evan's taking Sacred Heart too. And who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on board with Sacred Heart.
Man, we're very predictable. The 3A division, McClymonds, 5th state championship game for Coach Michael Peters and McClymonds. 3-1. They lost in 2019 when they were moved up into one of the top 5 divisions. So they had to go play down in Southern California in Norwalk, and lost to Oxnard in the 2A game in 2019, 34-6. But they won titles at the 4A level, 5AA, and 5A in 18, 17, and 16. This is a first state championship game for Birmingham, who I think they're gonna have to travel like 358 miles to get up to Oakland for this game. Birmingham's won 9. Birmingham started 0-5. They've won 9 in a row. That said, I'm still taking McClymonds. Cal Preps is taking McClymonds. Evans is taking McClymonds.
Yeah, and I'm taking McClymonds.
We're gonna Wilcox, the team we talked about earlier. And they have a really good team. And to me, they're deserving of playing for this honor. 10-4. They lost early to Pittsburgh, Valley, San Benito, and Los Gatos in league. They've won 9 in a row since. They're going up against Scripps Ranch, which is 13-1. Scripps has won 6 in a row. They have a quarterback named Jax, Jax Leatherwood, 6'6", 215. He's thrown for 2,923 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 2 picks.
Wow.
Not bad, huh?
Good. No, it's very, very good.
And of course, Wilcox will counter with his beer option offense and Luther K. Glenn, who has been sensational this season, right?
Oh, yeah, he's had a great year. Yeah. He's over 2,000 yards, isn't he?
He's got to be.
Or pretty close to it.
Pretty close.
No, I think he is, because I was comparing him to the guy from Manteca last week.
This is the first championship game appearance for Scripps Ranch out of San Diego. This is Wilcox's second state championship game. In 2018, the Chargers beat Kaiser at home in Santa Clara for the 3A title, 41-27. Cal Preps has taken Scripps Ranch by 3. Tough pick for me, but I think Scripps Ranch, being from San Diego, it's much closer to Mission Viejo than what Wilcox is going to have to deal with, having to take the bus ride all the way down there. I think, and a noon start, which is going to be unusual for both teams. But I'm going to take Scripps Ranch in this game. Close. This was the game that McClymonds played in 2 years ago, and they did not get the wake-up call, and they were out of it early. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm taking Scripps Ranch. Evan's taking Scripps. Cal Preps taking Scripps. Who you got?
No, I'm going to take Scripps. I think it's going to be a tough one for Wilcox.
The last one on the list, Serra at 11-1. Great season. Only loss was to St. Francis. They avenged that loss in the CCS Division I final. Playing Mater Dei, 11-0, 8 o'clock Saturday night in Mission Viejo, Saddleback College. Both teams have had 2 weeks to prepare. Sarah's going to be flying charter. They got some.
Maybe they can take Wilcox down on their charter.
You know what? Jokingly, Paul Rosa said the same thing. Maybe they can do the same for us. The anonymous donors. Can you do some investigative journalism and figure out who the anonymous donors might have been?
Well, I think one of the questions is one of the anonymous donors, a guy by the name of Brady,
and his wife, maybe the other donor, Giselle.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. But anyhow, so Sarah's going to be flying first class down there. Elijah Brown, the sophomore quarterback for Mater Dei, he took over for Bryce Young. I think we've heard of Bryce Young, right? He did he's done some good things for Alabama. He's completing about 75% of his passes. He's thrown for 2,338 yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 picks, 16-0 since becoming Mater Dei's quarterback in the spring. 5-0 in the spring, 11-0 now. So the sophomore is having a terrific season for a program that, unfortunately for him, is they've got a cloud hanging over them. Pretty dark, Buffy. Pretty dark.
Big time cloud now.
Big time cloud. This will be Sarah's 4th state championship game appearance. Padres lost at the 2A level to Sierra Canyon 42-40 in 2016. They beat Cajon at the 2AA level in 2017, 38-14. and they lost at the 1A level to Corona del Mar 35-27 in 2019. They never appeared at the 1AA level, and now they're going straight from 1A up to the Open Division to play Mater Dei, which won Open Division titles. It's only 2 state championships. Beat De La Salle 35-21 in 2018 and 52-21 in 2017. Cal Preps 48-0, which is just that's a phenomenal forecast by the computer. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's
level.
I mean, until the state can find a way to even things out a little bit, you're going to have something like this.
Right. Obviously, I'm taking Mater Dei. You're taking. I assume you're taking Mater Dei.
No, I'm going to take Serra, and the reason is I'm out of this. I want Serra to win. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't want Serra to win, and so I'm going to pick Serra and hope that maybe what's gone on the past couple of weeks has a little bit of a mental impact on Mater Dei. They're not quite as ready as they normally would be. Serra goes down and plays the game of a lifetime, and maybe you get something similar to what was the year that Stanford upset USC? I think had a really.
You know who was covering that game for the San Jose Mercury News? That was me.
Yeah, and
you want to know what the spread was that day? 41.
All right, well, 1 touchdown less than the spread Cal Prep spread is. But I'm going to take Serra. I mean, like I say, I'm not going to hide it. I want Serra to win, and so I'm going to pick them. And if I were in Vegas, I'd put a couple bucks on the game, and it's a windfall.
You're tempting me to change my pick since I have a 3-game lead. Do I really want to be picking Mater Dei? Maybe that? Will a forfeit count?
Hey, if Mater Dei were to forfeit, Serra wins.
Evan's taking Mater Dei. Cal Prep's Mater Dei. On principle, I got to take Mater Dei. I mean, well, maybe not. What do you think, Lefty?
Well, I mean, when you say on principle, I mean, I don't think there's any principle involved. I mean, it's just to me, it's sure. I guess I'm picking more with my heart than my head, but I mean, I'd like to see Serra win this game, and I'm going to pick Serra to win it. You know, I've known Patrick for many, many years. I've known Patrick longer than you have, and I mean, I think it'd be, I think it would to be. You know how we talked last week, and we said that maybe Folsom's victory was good for Northern California, beating De La Salle. Well, I think if Serra could pull off this kind of upset, that would be good for high school football, not just in California, but everywhere.
All right, Lefty, I am sold. I am going to take the Serra Padres.
All right, sure. Why not? Let's go Padres.
I don't care if it's by forfeit. I don't care if it's, Mater Dei has
1 point.
I don't care if Mater Dei has to show up with its junior high team. I'll take Serra.
I think there's a little bit of a chance simply because if Serra just ignores all the stuff that's going on around them and just plays their football game, and who knows what kind of mental state Mater Dei will have. I can even see a lot of the crowd at the game on Saturday rooting for Serra because they just don't like what Mater Dei stands for anymore.
If we had Evan Wee back on this call, you might have talked him into changing his pick and picking Mater Dei. But as we've noted many times throughout the course of the season, Evan has not been with us since the early part of the season because he had to go over to fill in for our Warriors beat, which became open right before the season started, the Warriors season. So Evan was with us for about a month?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it was early September that whenever they opened training camp.
Yep. So I will, I'm on board with you. I'm going to take Serra to pull off one of the great upsets of all time. I did not take Stanford against USC, but I don't even think I picked. I was just the beat writer. It's the beat writer for Stanford back then. And I remember being on the sideline during that game at the end and seeing Richard Sherman, who was a receiver for the Cardinal that day, making a huge catch on, I believe it was, I want to say 4th and 20 or 4th and 19. He makes a 20-yard catch that gets him down close. And then I believe it was 4th down when Mark Bradford, who grew up in the shadows of the LA Coliseum, and his dad had, I believe it was his dad, who had just died before the game, shortly before the game, a few days before the game, makes the winning catch, jumping up and pointing up to the heavens. It was quite a night for the Cardinal, and maybe it will be a night for the Padres. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Anything you want to add?
No, I mean it. Like I say, we're going to see a game on Saturday. You're going to be down there that I think it will attract a lot of attention just because of everything that's gone on the past couple of weeks, and hopefully Serra just gets tunnel vision, plays its game, doesn't let the distractions bother them. They have nothing to do with it, and goes out and plays the football game of its life.
There you go. Well, Lefty, it's been fun doing the video again this season. Hopefully we can do it again next year. We'll have to have the countdown for football. Once Saturday comes and goes, we'll have to put the number and that kind of, how many days till it starts again. Don't you enjoy football season?
What's that?
Don't you enjoy football season?
Yeah, no, I do enjoy football season. I've been a football fan all my life, and I do enjoy football season.
There you go.
All 3 levels: high school, college, and the NFL.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks again. Check us out, mercurynews.com, eastbaytimes.com. Sign up for digital subscriptions to keep us going.